let's start this meeting with the Sheffield Select Board. Thank CTSB, as always, for doing such a great job. And we will start with approval of meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes from November 2nd, November 6th, and November 13th, joint with the finance company.
Second.
Committee.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Tax classification hearing at 7 o'clock. And there's Tammy. You're getting there.
Well, good evening. This classification hearing requires, it's our annual classification hearing that requires the select board to adopt a single tax rate, which taxes all classes of property at full and fair cash valuation, or adopt a minimum residential factor by reducing the share of the residential and open space levy and shifting those taxes to the commercial, industrial, and personal property, establishing two rates, one for residential and open space and a second higher rate for the commercial, industrial, and personal property. Another purpose of this hearing is to consider discounts or exemptions for open space, the residential exemption, or a small commercial exemption, which would also establish splits rates, which would result in higher rate for non-qualifying property owners. Regardless of the option that you choose tonight, the tax levy will remain the same. The fiscal year 2024 tax levy is $10,442,259.79. The total taxable valuation for the town for fiscal 24 is $888,702,960. This calculates to be for a single tax rate, $11.75. It's an increase of 23 cents from last year. The excess levy capacity for this year is $2,332,457.21. The excess levy capacity is the difference between the maximum allowable levy and the amount levied. And this is additional monies that you have the right to go back and raise through taxation, but you choose not to at this time. Historically, the Select Board has adopted a single tax rate, affirming the proportionate share of the tax levy between the classes of property and not to a particular group or class. And the Board of Assessors recommends adoption of the single tax rate of $11.75 per $1,000 of valuation for all classes of property for fiscal 2024.
Should we close our hearing first and then make a decision, or may we make a decision within the hearing?
You can close your hearing if there's no other comments.
Okay. Anyone from the audience have any comments? Nadine?
Oh, I'm good.
Renee?
I would make a motion to, I'm sorry, do you have comments? Bob?
No.
I would make a motion to close the tax classification hearing.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All everyone in favor?
Aye.
So the hearing is closed. So now we need to discuss or take a motion.
Well, let me make a motion, then we can discuss it if that's all right.
Okay.
I would make a motion that we follow our tax assessor's recommendation and adopt a single tax rate of $11.75 per thousand for fiscal year 24.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy.
No matter what time of day it is.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, CTSB to present future of community television.
Good evening, Sheffield Select Board and town residents. Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Richard Frederick, and I'm the Executive Director for Community Television for the Southern Berkshires, also known as CTSB. And I just have some brief information here regarding the future of community television regarding declining cable subscriptions and pending legislation. The first thing I'd like to say is the importance of CTSB. You see our cameras here at all the meetings, and all the videos are available online and on cable. And CTSB serves Lee, Lenox, Great Barrington, Stockbridge, Sheffield. Our 3 cable TV channels, 1301, 1302, 1303, are funded by roughly 6,500 cable subscribers who reside here in the 5 towns. Not many people know how we are funded. So CTSB records, broadcasts town and school board meetings, community events, sports, parades, the Fall Festival of Shakespeare, which we just wrapped up last night. We live streamed it around the world. People were watching from Thailand and other places. CTSB also serves vulnerable and marginalized populations in our community, such as the elderly, students with disabilities, and non-English speaking communities. We're a vital service to the community. CTSB provides the community with a voice on such important issues as PCB contamination, amongst other things. Why am I here now? Well, I'm here now because we're going through a major technology shift. We all know that how fast technology changes, the computers and television and all that stuff, and it's finally hitting cable. So technology is changing the way we view television, right? Everyone is streaming now, watching on their phones and their iPads, and streaming video is replacing traditional cable TV model. Along with our current funding model. We receive funding through cable subscriptions, and as Spectrum moves those subscriptions to what's called the Zumo box, we will no longer receive funding. So CTSB is expecting to see drastic funding losses, maybe not next year, but certainly by 2025, I think it's going to severely impact services. Massachusetts is proposing a 5% streaming tax legislation on companies like Disney, Hulu, Netflix, and Spectrum to support community television moving forward. Senate Bill 34 and House Bill 74 needs to be passed by February of next year. The act is called an Act to Modernize Funding for Community Media Programming. And this act heard testimony back in June. And you can watch it on our website. It's 3 hours of testimony on Beacon Hill. And they heard from people like myself and community media stations all over the state, and also from groups that represent us, such as the Alliance for Community Media. And I thought one of the most powerful quotes from the testimony back in June was from Mike Wassenaar, who is the president of the Alliance for Community Media. Quote, "If this bill is not signed into law, we will be back in 2 years to discuss closures and layoffs, period," unquote. So I thought that was pretty powerful, so I took that message and I want to run with that and start getting the message out now about this legislation and change. So what am I asking for? I'm asking for the support of our towns and our residents. And we need everyone's support to continue offering full services at CTSB. We're only a staff of 4 people, and we run 3 channels that broadcast 24 hours a day. So it's an awful lot of work, and if we lost 1 employee, it would be devastating to us. So what I'm asking for is for people to send a letter to state and federal representatives expressing your concern and support for Massachusetts Bill S34 and H74. And letters can be sent by the town and the residents. Renee is going to have a copy. I have a pre-made letter made out here. All it needs to be is signed and dated, and it can be sent to William Smitty Pignatelli, or if you want to send one to someone different, reach out to me at CTSB. We have letters from Maura Healy, Richard Neal, Tricia Farley-Bouvier, and so if this letter should soon be available on the Sheffield website, or call me here at CTSB. So I want to send these letters to our representatives and Governor Maura Healy, Paul Mark, William Smitty Pignatelli, Tricia Farley-Bouvier. I want to flood their office with these letters so they know that how important this legislation is to us. And unfortunately, last year, a similar bill failed. And I'm afraid we're maybe headed for that again this year. But if enough of these letters are sent out, maybe they will consider. And I also want to say that the municipalities have a lot to gain by this as well, because this legislation that taxes 5% of all these companies who are making billions of dollars streaming across our front yards with poles that are in our property, they're making so much money that I think this tax is only fair. And if they decide to pass this on to people, well, I mean, that's on them. But if community television has to be funded by the 5 towns, that tax wouldn't be optional. People would be forced into that. So 2/5 of this money would go to community TV stations across Massachusetts. Massachusetts has more community TV stations than anywhere in the world. We have about 240 community TV stations. So 2/5 go to community TV, 2/5 go to the municipalities. So the municipalities have as much to gain from this as we do. And then the last 1/5 will go to the Commonwealth General Fund. So I will keep everyone updated as things progress and move forward. And I just want to ask for everyone's support in signing a letter and mailing it to your legislators and representatives. And that would be great. Any questions for me?
I just want to say that Rich and I have been working now, I think, for over a year on our cable TV renewal license with Spectrum, along with 2 other members. And this whole major technology shift is really something that we put into our ascertainment agreement. It's important to note that all of us who take cable TV pay us a fee every month, basically. Spectrum charges us 5% on our bill. But the streaming companies, in case I didn't catch it from Rich, are grabbing that same programming, same thing, this what's being filmed tonight, that all of you that are cable subscribers are paying for. They're grabbing it and they're putting it out there, and they're not paying a dime. They're paying nothing for it. They're grabbing a product for free because they can do it. And this bill would make it so that there's an equal playing field between the streaming services and cable TV. Actually, the 2/5 municipality share would be much bigger than what we currently get from Spectrum. What I would like to do is have a sample letter, make it up for you, include who it goes to, all the addresses and the emails. If people just want to write, an email, maybe we can put it out on our website in a Word format so they can just cut and paste, make this as easy as possible. If with the board's permission, I'll get that and we'll get it up on our website after Thanksgiving, if that's okay. I'm also going to ask at the senior center and downstairs and at the library, with their permission, that I can just put I guess I'd say a petition that people can just sign. They don't have to do a letter, they can just sign it. If that's, but we'll talk about that afterwards, if that's fair. I'm really concerned that we have a fair chance of losing CTSB. I think we're finally are just about finished with Spectrum, but one of their real pushbacks is how much they will contribute to technology for the station for the next 10 years, because they're playing in this game too, and it's really a disruptive market right now. So I've enjoyed working with Rich. He's really put a lot into our contract, which I hope to bring back to you shortly.
And I would only like to add that I hope everybody takes this seriously and takes the time to send a letter or at least contact our reps. It's not hard to do. They all have emails. And any form is better than not contacting them at all. I think CTSB does a great job. I know there's a lot of people that don't always make the meetings, but they can catch them later on when it's convenient for them. So it is a valued service.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming.
Great.
I thank you.
Thank you for having me, and I'll leave a few of these letters here. If someone wants to take one tonight and sign it and mail it on in, I'll leave some right there.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
So the next one is the Ashley Balls Village Improvement Society holiday tree lighting. and I was hoping Tricia was going to be here tonight to say something, so she isn't, so I will, unless somebody else was designated for it. I just want to check my email
It's
here.
right here.
Is it on there?
Yep, December
Okay.
2nd.
Okay, I thought so, but I didn't want to give anybody the false information. Everybody shows up at the wrong time.
Real trouble.
So basically, the tree lighting is on December 2nd. It starts roughly around 4 o'clock. The hay rides, which yours truly provide, starts at 4:15. And we'll give hay rides as long as there's people that want to ride. We just keep going. We do have to take a small break for the tree lighting, which is at 5:15. And they usually have children, I believe it's numbers that they take. Correct me, Pat, if I'm wrong. And then, is it a number that they pick?
Put their name in.
Oh, the name goes in the bucket. Yeah, because then whoever's name is drawn gets to flip the switch. So that's a big to-do. There's usually a nice bonfire. There will be desserts, cookies, and all kinds of neat little things. So we have a good time. It's been going on for quite a few years. They've done a lot of upgrade to the lights on the tree this year. They've gone to LED lights and restrung them, and there's been quite a few people down there on the green screwing in light bulbs and doing a lot of work. I didn't make it to that, but I'll have to beg forgiveness. So anybody that would like to come to the green for a hay ride and some hot chocolate and some cookies and a tree lighting, please show up. It's a great time. Okay, moving on. Discussion, possible action regarding building permit fee reimbursement policy. So, Rhonda, would you like to explain this one?
Sure. So over the years, we've had a couple requests for refund of the building permit fees for a project that might not have gotten started or had to be changed or canceled for some reason. And we've never had a policy on how that works. One of them, I believe, was 2 years old, and that's a little hard for us to do after 2 years. And in speaking with our building inspector, who works for several other towns, he shared with me that a lot of them have a policy where they can refund some of the money back, and then there's a certain portion of that that is kept by the town for the administrative fees. So I've drafted this policy that would allow us to refund the permit fee if it's within the same fiscal year, and there will be no consideration for any request that crosses fiscal year. So if it's not in the same year, we can't refund that to you. The project must not have started, and we're not going to consider partial refunds. I've also put down that the town will retain $50 for permits that cost under $5,000 and $100 for any permits that should say $5,000 and over as an administrative fee.
So basically, it's all or nothing.
Yes,
It's only if the job gets canceled
yes.
a certain way and we're not hearing about it.
I think it would be too hard to look
I
at a
think so,
project
too.
and prorate how much should be given back or considered.
No, I think you've done a good job on this policy. I'll make a motion that we accept and put this policy into place.
I'd second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Rhonda.
Discussion, possible action regarding feeding the wildlife regulation. So, this one has been a little interesting in coming. It's been talked about more than once. And there's been some hesitation to try to implement a feeding of the wildlife regulation. But seeing how we seem to have some ongoing issues where a warning or a consultation wasn't enough and it is continuing, we have tried to adopt a regulation here. It is based off of Westfield's regulation with some modifications for Sheffield. So basically, it would be, well, I can read it completely. It shouldn't take too long here. So this is how it reads. No person shall feed, bait, or in any manner provide access to food to any wild animal or wildlife within the town of Sheffield or on lands either publicly or privately owned except as permitted below. No person shall fail to take remedial action to avoid contact or conflict with wild animals, which may include the securing or removing of outdoor food sources or attractant after being advised by the town to undertake such remedial action. Further, after an initial contact or conflict with a wild animal, no person shall continue to provide or otherwise fail to secure or remove any likely food sources or attractants, including but not limited to bird feeders. The prohibitions of this regulation shall not apply to shrubs, live crops, plants, flowers, vegetation, garden trees, or composting. Feeding of songbirds and other backyard birds shall be permitted on private property. The animal control officer, under the direction of the Sheffield Police Department, shall enforce the provision of the regulation. A written warning will be issued for the initial complaint. Violations of this regulation shall be enforceable under the non-criminal disposition procedures established by Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 21D. The penalties for any person violating this regulation shall be as stated in a criminal disposition bylaw: $100 for the first violation, $200 for the second violation, $300 for each subsequent violation. Each day of the violation should constitute a separate offense.
I just want to correct you that it's that non-criminal disposition.
Oh, did I say criminal?
You did.
Sorry.
I just want to make sure we know
Well,
we're not
that-
going to jail today.
That would be kind of interesting. Feed the wildlife, go to jail. No, we don't want to get quite that heavy-handed. So basically, you can still feed the birds. Everything stays the same. If there is a problem and the bears or whatever wildlife is creating a hazard, and it is pretty much up to the police department, the animal control officer, to determine whether this is intentional feeding or just a mistaken or unintentional problem. Is there any questions? George?
George O'Lane, Foley Road. Seems to me that the Fish and Game already has a law on the books about that. No?
They do not. They can only intercede if it is a baiting situation for hunting purposes. We have contacted them about this other incident that we've had a reoccurrence of. They will not even come out because we have no rules or regulations established for feeding of wildlife. So they basically told us, unless we do this, they're not coming out to do anything.
So if you're feeding the bird and the bears come along and eat the bird food,
That isn't really what this is intended to do, because that's gonna happen. If that bear continually comes back and destroys property or puts anyone in harm's way, you would be asked to remove the bird seed and the bird feeder until that threat is gone, which could be the rest of the winter season, or the season till winter comes and they go back into hibernation.
We always seem to have the extremes where someone is kind of doing what's not really very smart. And in this case, it has to do with bears and becoming real nuisances in neighborhoods. And yet, as Bob just explained, this is like the third time I think we've brought that. We brought it up, the Board of Health brought it up, it's back here. We're powerless to do anything. Fish and Game says you don't have a regulation, we don't have any power. you'd think they'd have this at the state. But unless something is adopted, and I'm sure if this is adopted and it doesn't work, we will hear about it and it can be modified. The only thing that I would like to suggest we consider, because it goes directly to George's point, which is the fourth paragraph. The feeding of songbirds or other backyard birds shall be permitted on private property unless so advised to take remedial action. I think that might make everyone more comfortable that somebody's not going to come swooping down and say, you got to take down your bird feeder. Because the intent of this is not to make it so that people are not able to enjoy birds and feed them. It's really designed to address it when it really becomes a situation that's dangerous, and both the police and Fish and Wildlife has no option. And then, of course, the bear gets killed, which to me doesn't quite seem right. I don't know if that is agreeable.
Yeah, I would accept that adjustment, Renee. I have not been in a huge favor of this wildlife regulation, but I think we have written it in such a way that it doesn't prevent us from enjoying our everyday wildlife, but not putting our neighbors at risk. So I think it serves the purpose.
And we have had these situations, otherwise this wouldn't be back for the third time.
Right.
Pat?
Pat Levine, 261 East Main Street. Speaking as an individual, you're right, this did go through the Board of Health as well, but as an individual, I'd like to really strongly endorse this. I think it is important that we have actionable policies for the fish and game people who are perfectly willing to support us when appropriate, but can't unless we provide them with some tools. So thank you for doing this.
I'll make a motion, we accept the regulation with Renee's adjustment.
I'll second it.
Okay.
In stereo.
In stereo. Any further discussion, any further questions from the audience? Yes. Vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Appointment announcements, Council of Aging and Commission on Disabilities. So this is just an announcement tonight. We have a request from George A. Malukas, who would like to become a member of the Sheffield Center Council of Aging. And this would be voted on in 2 weeks.
Well, it would, unless you would consider suspending your policy, especially for the next one you're going to talk about, the Commission on Disabilities. Those openings have been there for a long time. And
So
we
I would
haven't
make a
gotten-
motion that we suspend our normal wait 2 weeks policy and appoint George Malukas to the Sheffield Senior Center Council on Aging
I'll second that.
for a term of, is it 3 years?
3 years.
3 years, okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll show you.
Yeah.
Okay. And the next one is, oh, I might pronounce this wrong, Rania Markham. And this one is for the Commission on Disabilities. Go ahead, Ron.
I would make a motion that we appoint Rania Markham to the Commission on Disabilities. Is this again for 3 years, or is she
Yes, this one
filling
would
in a
be,
term?
this would be.
3 years.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion?
I very much like the credentials that she has. Yes.
Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Discussion, possible action, response to email regarding nonprofit grants. Rhonda, would you like to do this one?
Sure. So we received an email from a resident who was upset because of the nonprofit grant awards, that some of the money went to churches. And he thought that would be a violation of church and state, and has asked the board to rescind their decision on providing money to the churches. So in your packet, I have proposed a letter back to him. If you'd like me to read it, I can do that as well.
Please do.
Okay. The Select Board has received your email regarding the nonprofit donations that were given out. The donations were not given to religious organizations as part of their operating expenses. These donations were specifically earmarked towards programs that benefit residents in Sheffield or have benefited residents, such as the food pantry, free entertainment, and food. All applications were carefully reviewed and selected based on the specific request and need.
I'd like to recommend we go ahead and send that letter.
Okay, do we have a second?
I wasn't involved in the awarding of these grants, but I think the letter is excellent, and I would make a second on it.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Discussion, possible action, request to submit a nonprofit grant after deadline.
So this is on the same subject. You've had someone ask if a late application will be accepted. And I've talked with you individually, but I thought it was a conversation that you might like to explain yes, no, and why you've made that decision.
Anybody like to take the lead on this?
Well, you want to, Nadine, or you want?
Well, I mean, I just feel that we, made monies available. We gave out more money than we had set aside. We had a certain time frame, and I think it's only fair that we stick within that time frame and not accept any additional requests.
I would agree with that. We gave ample time and very clear notice as to the application, and I think it was almost a month to complete it.
It was a little bit
It was
more.
more
A
than
little
that.
bit more than a month. So I think if anyone was having an issue for whatever reason, it would have been more prudent to come before the board if there was a health issue or, something. But I would make a motion that we deny this request to submit a nonprofit grant after the deadline.
I'll second that.
And I agree with my colleagues. So any further discussion?
Boy, everybody stopped for a moment there. I think it's depending on, at least in my view, depending on how the rest of the ARPA money plays out. I think who knows what might happen in the future, but right now, there's nothing else going on.
We could easily spend the rest of the ARPA money on roads and bridges.
Oh, I know that.
And not cover half of what needs to be done.
Okay, so, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, board item members. Board, yeah.
He says it.
Boy, I'm doing, I did that good, didn't I? Wow, that's almost as good as good morning. All right, so board member items.
I just would like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving and remind everyone that Town Hall is closed on Thursday and Friday for our staff to be able to enjoy time with their families.
Oh, that's good, Bob.
Yeah, that
I
was
just want to also
interesting.
share wishes for a happy Thanksgiving, and I also just want to remind people that there are boxes at the police station and the senior center collecting unwrapped toys for Toys for Tots. That's it.
And I will wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Hope to see you at the Ashley Falls tree lighting on the 2nd. And that's all I have. Rhonda, do you have
Yeah,
anything?
I just have one thing. I just want to let everyone know that we will be setting up the tree here in Town Hall again this year. It's called the Giving Tree, and people can come in and pull a ornament off of it and see the need. There's going to be a bunch of different needs on there, from meals and transportation for seniors who might not be able to afford that, the animal control needs. She needs dog food, stuff for the kennels for when she has a dog overnight. The things can be donated to the highway, who are often out at night or maybe out for long periods of time and haven't been able to pack a snack or something for them to eat. And that goes for the police department and the fire department as well. So we will set it up probably after Thanksgiving, and if you're interested, you can come in and see what's on there that maybe you could provide.
Could I add, since you went as far out as December 2nd, could I add the town meeting?
Yes, that
Special town
probably
meeting
should be
on Monday,
mentioned.
December 4th at 6 PM. There's a number of items on the warrant, and we'll have clickers, so the meeting should progress.
Where is the warrant?
I'm sorry?
Where is the warrant?
Downstairs on the board.
Can we put the
It
warrant
should be on the,
I thought it was on the
Website, too.
website, but I'll check on that.
We'll make sure it's on the website.
it should be on the website too. If we haven't gotten it there, it will be posted forthwith.
At the school?
Hmm?
At the school.
Yep.
It'll be at the school, yes. Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, public comments. Any public comments?
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, sorry.
I would make a motion then that we adjourn from this meeting of the Select Board.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned, and I get to use the hammer.